Good evening. Tonight, we're tackling the United States national debt, now a jaw-dropping $37 trillion. That's a number so huge, it's almost meaningless until you realize it's starting to affect your life. Politicians rant about it, then quietly add to it, year after year. But this isn't just a problem for future generations, it's a termite infestation in the foundation of our economy. The bill is coming due, and it's massive. So buckle up. We're diving into the wild, messy world of America's national debt. $37 trillion is hard to grasp. That's the current size of the US national debt, a number so massive it's almost impossible to picture. If you stacked $1 bills, it would reach the moon and back several times. But what does that really mean for the country, and for you? To make sense of such a huge number, economists use something called the debt-to-GDP ratio. This ratio helps put the debt in context, making it easier to understand whether it's manageable or a cause for concern. Think of it like your own finances. If you owe $10,000 but make $100,000 a year, that's very different from owing $10,000 when you only make $20,000. Debt only matters compared to your income because your income determines your ability to pay it back. For countries, GDP is like the nation's annual income. It's the total value of all goods and services produced in a year, everything from cars and crops to technology and healthcare. The higher the GDP, the more resources a country has to pay off its debt. Right now, US debt is over 120% of GDP. That means we owe more than we produce in an entire year. This is even higher than the debt levels seen after World War II, when the country was rebuilding and spending heavily on recovery. That's a red flag for investors and credit agencies. When they see a country's debt rising faster than its income, they start to worry about whether the country can pay its bills. When the debt-to-GDP ratio climbs, lenders get nervous. They may demand higher interest rates to compensate for the risk, making it more expensive for the government to borrow money in the future. As a result, more of your tax dollars go toward paying interest on the debt, instead of funding things like roads, schools, or scientific research. That means less investment in the things that help our country grow and improve. For decades, the US kept its debt-to-GDP ratio under 70%. This allowed for steady growth and investment in the future. But in recent years, that number has soared, raising new concerns. Now, we're in the same club as countries like Japan and Greece, which have struggled with high debt and slow economic growth. It's a warning sign that we can't ignore. A high debt-to-GDP ratio means our financial credibility is on shaky ground. If confidence drops, it could lead to a weaker dollar, higher borrowing costs, and even economic instability. And that affects every American, whether you realize it or not. From the price of groceries to the stability of your job, the debt-to-GDP ratio shapes the economy we all depend on. That's why understanding it and caring about it matters for everyone. The debt keeps growing, year after year, almost as if it's on autopilot. No matter what's happening in the economy, whether the sun is shining or storm clouds are gathering, the numbers keep ticking upward. It's a problem that doesn't take a break, even when everything else seems to be going well. That's because, as a country, we run annual deficits, meaning we consistently spend more than we collect in taxes. It's like having a household budget where the bills always outpace the paycheck, no matter how much money comes in. Even when tax revenues are strong, our spending commitments are even stronger. Every year we overspend, we borrow to cover the gap, and that borrowing piles onto the national debt. It's a cycle that repeats itself, compounding the problem. The more we borrow, the more we owe. And the harder it becomes to break free from this pattern. It's like maxing out your credit card every month, even when times are good. Imagine getting a raise at work, but instead of saving or paying down debt, you just spend even more. That's what's happening on a national scale. Deficits make sense in a crisis, like during a recession or a national emergency, when extra spending can help stabilize the economy. But right now, we're running trillion-dollar deficits even in strong economies. When unemployment is low and businesses are thriving, it's like throwing a lifeline when the ship isn't even sinking. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, projects these deficits will keep growing, not shrinking. Their forecasts show the gap between what we spend and what we collect will only widen in the years ahead, unless something changes. Why? It comes down to long-term spending trends, like rising healthcare costs and an aging population, and a political refusal to raise enough revenue to cover our promises. We want the benefits, but we don't want to pay the full price. We're not just failing to pay down the debt, we're enthusiastically making it worse. Every new program, every tax cut, every spending increase adds to the pile, often with little thought to the long-term consequences. Balancing the budget isn't just hard, it's something we haven't seriously tried in decades. The last time we came close was a generation ago, and since then, the will to make tough choices has faded. The emergency is over, but the spending spree continues. We celebrate good times with even more spending, as if the bills will never come due. We're digging the hole deeper every single day, and unless we change course, that hole will only get harder to climb out of, no matter how sunny the day may seem. Historically, America borrowed big during wars, then paid down debt in peacetime. That changed in the 1980s. We started running deficits even when times were good. Tax cuts, wars, and new benefits were added without paying for them. The 2008 financial crisis and COVID-19 pandemic piled on trillions more. We entered each crisis already deep in debt and came out even deeper. Now the CBO project's debt will hit 166% of GDP by 2054. That's not a partisan scare tactic, it's government math. We're on a path that can't continue forever. Sooner or later, something has to give. Here's where it gets scary. Interest payments on the national debt are exploding, and it's happening faster than most people realize. Imagine opening your credit card statement and seeing a number so big, it's more than your rent, your groceries, and your car payment combined. That's what's happening to America's finances right now, but on a scale of trillions. For years, the government could borrow money at rock-bottom interest rates. It was like having a credit card with almost no interest. Easy to swipe, easy to ignore the bill. This made it tempting to keep borrowing year after year to pay for everything from tax cuts to new programs. But those days are over. The Federal Reserve has raised rates sharply to fight inflation, and suddenly, the cost of borrowing has skyrocketed. Now interest is one of the single biggest items in the entire federal budget, bigger than almost anything else the government spends money on. In 2024, for the first time ever, the United States will spend more on interest payments than on the entire military budget. That's right, more money just to pay the interest on our debt than to fund the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and even the Space Force combined. Think about that for a moment. All the men and women in uniform, all the ships, planes, and technology, every branch of the military together costs less than the interest we owe on our national debt. Every single dollar spent on interest is a dollar we can't use to build new roads and bridges, fund scientific breakthroughs, or take care of our veterans. It's money that could have gone to schools, healthcare, or preparing for the next big challenge. But instead, it's gone, just to pay for yesterday's borrowing. As the national debt keeps growing, so do the interest payments. It's a vicious cycle, a debt spiral that gets harder and harder to escape. The more we borrow, the more we owe, and the more we have to pay just to keep up. To cover these rising costs, the government borrows even more, which means even higher interest payments in the future. It's like trying to pay off one credit card by opening another, and the balance just keeps getting bigger. This growing burden acts like a dead weight on our economy. It crowds out investments in things that could make life better for everyone, like new jobs, better schools, and a stronger safety net. It makes it harder for families and businesses to get ahead. If we don't get this under control, these interest payments will define our future. They'll shape what's possible for the next generation, limiting our choices and our dreams. The cost of past decisions is now suffocating our ability to invest in the future. Unless we make tough choices soon, we risk leaving behind a country that's less secure, less innovative, and less prepared for whatever comes next. U.S. government debt was once the world's safest investment, AAA rated, rock solid, but political dysfunction has changed that. In 2011, Standard & Poor's downgraded America's credit rating for the first time, citing political brinkmanship. Fitch followed in 2012. On 2023, blaming repeated budget standoffs and no credible plan to fix the debt. These downgrades are like a lower credit score. Lenders get nervous and demand higher interest. It's an embarrassing signal for a country that anchors the global financial system. Both parties share the blame: tax cuts without spending cuts, new programs without new revenue. Political games make investors nervous and borrowing more expensive. The world is watching and losing faith. Until we get serious, our reputation and finances will keep eroding. If everyone knows the debt is a problem, why not fix it? because the solutions are politically toxic. You can raise taxes or cut spending, neither is popular. The real drivers of debt are Social Security and Medicare, but touching them is political suicide. Raising taxes, also a non-starter, especially for the middle class. Politicians promise more benefits and lower taxes because that's what voters want to hear. We want government services but don't want to pay for them. Until voters demand real solutions, politicians will keep kicking the can. The fantasy of have it all, pay for none is what got us here. So, why hasn't the US collapsed like Greece or Argentina? The answer: the exorbitant privilege of the US dollar. The dollar is the world's reserve currency, so there's always demand for US debt. That lets us borrow at low rates other countries can only dream of. Plus, the US can print its own money, an option Greece never had. But this privilege isn't guaranteed. It depends on global trust in America's stability and competence. Political chaos and runaway debt erode that trust. If the world loses faith, borrowing gets harder and more expensive. We're testing the limits of this privilege every day, and no one knows where the breaking point is. The real danger isn't immediate collapse, it's being unprepared for the next crisis. High debt means less fiscal space to respond to emergencies. When the next recession, war, or disaster hits, our options will be limited. High government borrowing drives up interest rates for everyone: mortgages, car loans, business investment. That slows growth and makes life more expensive for all of us. Interest payments will keep crowding out everything else in the budget. We'll have to make impossible choices, less for science, education, parks, and the safety net. The debt is a slow-burning crisis, a tax on our children's future, and the bill is getting bigger every day.